Hey everybody, it's Dylan. We're playing Fire Emblem the Binding Blade, where you play as a boy with red hair who's trying to save his father, who also has red hair, and it's a very happy world. And we currently have 2 cavalry units, a heavy knight, an archer and a lord. We won't be using the paladin for all intents and purposes for this video because he's usually there to baby you through the game if you don't really know how to play it. And you best believe I know how to play this game, because I am the best Fire Emblem player of all time. And so the strategy is pretty simple from the beginning. Form a tight wall of defense, repel the attackers, and we'll go from there and see what happens. You have to keep the defending units at quite large amounts of HP, because if they KO one unit by an accidental critical hit, then another one will kill them, and then you're fucked. So, the characters. Roy, a young boy who's in charge of this army, who is mainly motivated by his desire to save his father, who is trapped inside of a castle, with enemy units that are basically very powerful in comparison to him, because he's in a weakened physical state. Now we belong to a legendary bloodline who can wield the Binding Blade, or are just generally good tacticians, which is why we are part of their natural selection, the ones who will prevail against all darkness in this world. And this darkness is known as Grado. No, that's a different game. That's 2 games ahead. No, this is Burn. Burn. What kind of name is that? This is the man, the Emperor in charge is Emperor Burn. And we have to stop him from defeating us. Now, as you can see, I have lost a unit. And that's because we are playing a lunatic mode. And sometimes, loss in war is inevitable. As is my mercy. So, what's the plan? Well, this gameplay by itself is probably too boring to watch by itself, so allow me to tell you another story. So, put your earphones on, get a nice comfy seat, and get ready to listen to a banger of a story. It's another story about my social ineptitude in a school. I was in year 9, well year 8 as well, in this school. It was Warrington, and I was a pretty lonely guy. We moved around a lot, so I didn't really talk to people, so I wasn't particularly good at it, and this showed very much. Now, I had a neighbour that lived across the street, and I thought this neighbour was pretty nice looking, and so I would take this opportunity to try and nimble my way with my silver tongue into getting with this neighbour. Of course, with my silver-tongued prowess, it proved no match for the devastating effects of how awkward I was. Now, we used to hang out quite a lot. It wasn't like we spoke once and that was the end of it, but we used to hang out quite a lot. Daily we'd just, after school, talk about whatever, God knows what. Anyway, so I decided that it would be a very, very charming thing of me to do, to act like an animation character. You know, like
one of my Japanese anime, Snake.
And it didn't particularly work out in my favour. Lest did it particularly act in anybody's favour, for it was a particularly horrendous thing for anyone to experience within that time frame, as it would have been for anybody else who bore witness to this monstrosity that was born. which was my ability to pretend to flirt. Now you'd be wondering, how did you pretend to be an anime character? Well, that's a very simple question, and a very convoluted answer. I would ask the individual if they knew what anime was, and then while expressing myself as a way of expressing myself, I would strike cool and rad anime poses while asking the other person, what is your anime pose? Because that was totally the coolest thing in the world that all the kids were down with back in the day, is anime poses. Of course you may be wondering, did this work? And I'm sorry to break the bubble, boys, but no, it didn't work. In fact, it just made me look incredibly weird, and nothing ever happened between us, of course, because nobody wants to go out with a guy that pretends to be an anime character because he thinks it's cool. Now you may be wondering, how long was I able to keep this facade up for before it eventually crumbled? The entire time. The entire 2 years that I lived in Warrington, this was my persona. Until I became a hermit and never left the house. And that kind of put an end to it. I locked myself away because I wasn't deemed fit to walk amongst humans. No, but seriously though, like, yeah, it was pretty fucking awkward, I'm not gonna lie. Pretty sad shit. And a mistake that will never be repeated ever again. Because I've learned in my older years, it doesn't particularly matter who you are or what your interests are. All that matters is that there's some kind of shared interest between what you like and what the other person likes. What that is, obviously, doesn't matter. What matters is you both share that in common. Otherwise you'll have nothing to talk about ever, and it'll be pretty sad and pretty lonely, and people get into a relationship to feel less lonely, so feeling more lonely in one kind of defeats the purpose. So yeah, that's some advice for you, ladies and gentlemen. Don't pretend to be a weird anime character to try and impress people, and more importantly, don't try to be a weird anime character to get a girlfriend, because it doesn't work. No, of course it wouldn't work, but in my childish eyes, when I believed anime was king, it worked, and as I soon realised, I was very, very wrong indeed. Is this the only time I've done this? No, in fact it isn't the only time I've done this. I've done this quite a few times, but it was mainly between those years. I grew out of it around year 10. Well, no, that's a lie, because I used to sneak upstairs to the music department and play piano and pretend to be an edgy anime character, so no, I never grew out of it. Not until I left school and went into 6th form, and then I kind of realised that, hey, this isn't really working out for me. And it took me that long. It took me 4 years to realise that this wasn't working. I'm a pretty fast learner by all regards, of course, but yeah, 4 years is nothing in comparison to the grand scheme of the destination and where the story ends, which is currently going on, of course. Otherwise I wouldn't be talking in this video. To all of your dismays, of course, because this story is pretty grim by all standards and regards. Now, you may be wondering, has my Riz improved since then? No, not really. Not really, I'm just not weird anymore. Well, I don't think I am anyway. I'm sure someone will point it out to me at some point and say, hey, that was slightly unusual. Don't do that again. And then I'll go, oh, and then I'll make a video about it. But yeah. This was also the time where I broke my wrist in a PE lesson doing something like really retarded. Basically, I just got tripped up by somebody else, and that's how my wrist broke. And I was at school for like a week, and I remember posting an Instagram story about like how I'd broken my wrist, and I was like talking to the camera as if I was like had some terminal illness and I was dying, and I was informing the people and letting them know that I was okay. When in fact I didn't need to post this video because, let's face it, nobody actually cared if it was alright or not, and I definitely did not need to post a lengthy Instagram video updating everybody on my status of whether I was okay or not. But you know, that was another embarrassing moment. And yes, I did get rinsed by my friends after they saw that video where we saw each other again in school. I did quite literally act like I'd just had some major surgery done that was teetering on the edge of whether I would live or die. It was pretty sad shit. But I was a very dramatic kid. I always have been a dramatic kid. I was a theatre boy, an incredibly entertaining man. No, not really, but it was more so the fact that I just didn't know how to approach things half the time, so it ended up in really completely avoidable situations when I didn't need to be in them. Now back to the game. This dumbass man is about to feel the wrath of my vengeance, and we're about to complete this map and become the greatest of all time. Well, not really, it's just getting your house back because it got taken by a bunch of bandits because your father's fucking useless. But yeah, we've got the home and everybody's happy and it's a very happy world. And yeah, that's about it. See ya.